Well, the visit is very significant. It is taking place after a gap of 3 years. Russia is now one of very important sources of crude energy resources in India. The program elements include a private meeting with President Putin, delegation level talks, luncheon hosted by President Putin for Prime Minister and his delegation. Prime Minister will also address a gathering of Indian community members. Well, the visit is very significant. It is taking place after a gap of 3 years. We have the tradition of annual exchange of summits, level meetings between the President of Russian Federation and the Prime Minister of India. The last one was in 2021. So since then, a lot has changed around the world, but also our relations have expanded. Russia is now one of very important sources of crude energy resources in India. Also, trade have expanded in other areas. So this visit becomes very important for the leaders to exchange views on all these developments in bilateral relationship, but also other regional and international issues of mutual interest.
What is the program of the Prime Minister is going to be like? It is going to be busy 1.5 days. If you can run us through the program also.
Well, the program elements include a private meeting with President Putin, delegation level talks, restricted talks, luncheon hosted by President Putin for Prime Minister and his delegation, visit to an exhibition center in the Vedana complex, Rosatom Pavilion, and also exchange of documents which we are preparing to sign and exchange during the visit. Prime Minister will also address a gathering of Indian community members who are very eagerly looking forward to this visit to Moscow by Prime Minister after a gap of 9 years. Last prime ministerial visit to Moscow was in 2015. So these are some of the important elements of the program.
So in terms of agenda, what can we expect? We know that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is something which is of course going to be on the agenda. What else can be discussed between the two leaders, and how much would the Russia-Ukraine conflict be discussed?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is that I am in no position to prejudge what the two leaders will talk. But I can certainly tell you that the visit is in the framework of our annual exchange of presidential and prime ministerial visit that we have, annual summits. And so the context is bilateral. But certainly global issues, including this war that you mentioned, will be discussed, and the leaders will exchange their views and their perspective on these developments.
So in context of the relationship between the two countries, if you can talk about trade, connectivity and defense, since we know that there is a trade imbalance between the two countries, and defense and connectivity we know is an important pillar in the relationship. So if you can talk about these sectors between the two countries.
Trade, as I was mentioning, in last 3 years, trade have expanded, crossed $65 billion. We have two challenges. One, to balance the trade, because trade is very heavily in favor of the Russian side. So expanding India's trade basket, export items, and also increasing the quantities to better balance the trade, while at the same time finding ways and means to sustain this growth in bilateral trade. We are looking at new items, including agricultural products to export to Russia, ceramic tiles, the auto components and engineering goods, chemical products. Of course, pharmaceuticals has been one of the traditional areas, products that we have exported to Russia. We want to increase their volume and also add new items to the trade basket.
And in terms of defense and connectivity?
Defense is a very important pillar of the relationship. There are a number of platforms which India has bought from Russia, and there are spare parts and also manufacturing of many of the components and spare parts in India. A lot is being done now already. We would discuss and look at further increasing this trend of co-production, as we say, of defense items in India. Connectivity similarly is very important for trade and also people to people exchanges. International north-south transport corridor is very much on the agenda, and there have been some cargo movements along that. New routes are also coming up, Arctic route or Northern Sea route as it is called, and we are looking for institutionalizing and expanding cooperation in that sector also.